this happened. I did a thing. So this is day 8 of the URI guitar build. As you can see, I'm shaping the neck. But last time I spoke to you on camera was before all this happened. So let's go see what happened. Come see us at the URI Guitar Festival in South Kingston, Rhode Island, October 23rd through the 26th. Although the festival starts on the 19th, you can't miss it. You gotta be there. All right, I got work to do. Go back to the past. And we're back. I'm just taking some of the fuzzies off from cutting that slot. It just gets a little fuzzy, and I don't want to have any of that discrepancy in there. It cleans up pretty easy. It's a nice looking slot, isn't it? Centered up with both center lines. No, this is my neck machine. I've done other videos on this, and it just works. I've got the neck angle built into that sled. I tighten down onto that pin and have the center line lined up centered, and mount the body in so that it hangs slightly over the gap, line up the tail block, put in my spline, and line everything up. It's so incredibly easy to do it this way. It takes all the thought out, makes some of the extra prep work. Just got to make sure everything is lined up really well. That's one of my homemade flip lever clamps that works okay. And this is just a piece of aluminum bar with a couple holes and wing nuts that hold it down. Slide her in, turn on the belt, and there we go. It's a sander and caul all in one. It makes everything just fit. It takes about 30 seconds total to fit the neck to the body. That's pretty quick. And look at that. Perfect fit. I'm happy. Now I come back again with some 120 to clean up some of that sanding glaze from the back of the belt and clean out the slot and glue. And my camera seems to like me more than the guitar. Anyways, if you get glue dripping, just clean it up. That means that you've got enough in there. And both sides get the glue and pop it on. Make sure that it lines up to the top because you've got a little bit of latitude. Wipe out any excess and clamp her up. It's just about that easy. Now, the crazy thing is that with high glue, you can kind of start working this guitar in about 20 minutes after you get this into here because the glue is tacked up. Now, a little pro tip, clean up the glue on the backside. So here's one of my fingerboards that is going on, and I like the nut to be rough cut out to like 53 or 54, 64 at the 12th, and 67 millimeters at the 19th. You'll notice that when you line it up, the 12th fret is slightly flared out, and that's for good reason. I want a little bit more room for the string to vibrate and for your hands to have room to get around it. And it's a lot more comfortable that way. Now, this is all referenced off the center line. Take it to your bandsaw and just cut away everything that you don't need. Oh, I need my little reminder because this is dangerous. So we keep our little reminder there. So cut out to the line, and it's pretty quick. I like to actually reference to the back of the bandsaw blade and just kind of run that and use that as a stabilization. I know it's bad practice to reach past the blade, but I'm careful. The second cut is always the hardest because it's a, increasing cut, so you're dealing with less than half of the blade thickness, but there we go. Clamp it up into your bench vise and plane it down. Try to keep a little bit of that in there and don't rock too much from side to side. Leaves a really nice finish, and it goes pretty quick. You don't have to take very heavy cuts, but if you cut carefully, it's pretty easy. Alternately, you could use a joiner, but be careful about taking away that flare because that is really important, at least from a playability standpoint. In order to keep that, I do mark out the 12th fret, which I generally do before I clamp it up, but hey, this time I forget, and I'm allowed to do that, right? Measuring it out. Focus. All right, well, that's about 51 and a half. Now, mark out the 12th fret here because I want to shape most of the fingerboard from the underside, not the top side, using the same plane. And I do like to roll off treble side just a little bit to make it a little bit straighter. And then once I flip it around, I am going to roll off the bass side, and at the same time I'm putting a little bit of a taper into it so that way I can control my saddle height above the top because I want about 10 to 11 millimeters, well, closer to 10. So now that that's getting planed down and I've got a little bit extra, I'm just gonna, I've done this many times, so I kind of have my motions in, but check occasionally to make sure that everything is going where you want it to be. Once that's there, I like to scrape the backside with my nasty scraper so to speak. And I like to actually put a bit of a hollow into this, believe it or not. So that way, when you are clamping it, it's going to make sure that the edges are very well down to the edge. I really don't like flat fingerboards across the underside. Focus. All right, there we go. You can kind of see it right there. See, it's got a little bit of a hollow, and you're going to want to check that from time to time. Not exactly a long process, but it really does make all the difference. You don't want to have anything, not glued at the edges. That's really bad. Oh, there's a nice one as well. So we're looking for just a very nice, consistent, even scoop. And with the neck, I'm just kind of cleaning this up, making sure that that's square or flush to the body, and also slight hollow here as well. Not a whole lot. Now I'm going to do a preliminary fit, making sure that it's centered along all center lines. I'm going to make sure it's centered on the upper bout, centered to the rosette and the sound hole, and make any adjustments. Once that's in place, oh, there it is. I like to add a 20th fret, leave it hanging. Once it's at the bandsaw, I'll take a number of relief cuts because that curve is a little bit too much for what this blade can handle in one pass. So by doing these relief cuts, you can come in and you're not getting hung up, and it goes by pretty quick. Just try not to go too far and watch out, because sometimes those little bits will go flying at you. So don't get scared, don't jump, because you're really close to the blade. Now I like to use the 20th fret to tell me where the end of that fingerboard is, and then go up to the edge of the sound hole, cut all that excess off, and well, there we go. There's a nice angle. In order to finish it out, I'll use a sanding wheel mounted into my drill press. I don't have a spindle sander, but whatever. This works well enough. And I just try to make it look nice. I don't have any numbers that I go to. I just make it look good. Make sure that you've got your dust hood nearby so that way you're not dropping too much dust, and this seems to be working pretty well. And the smaller one is really great for the insides. Careful, because it can dig in a little bit much, and we're just sanding right up to the pencil line. Now it's a little bit difficult to see, but as you're sanding this back, sometimes you get a little bit of a rolled edge, kind of as the ebony sands and works its way over. It just kind of falls over. You'll have to kind of brush it away and just go back to make sure that you take away just the barest edge of that line. You want to go to the inside of the pencil line because that's your reference point. Now here's my quintessential, if you can read this, I hope you know what you're doing, on every single guitar. And yes, I do score the underside of the fingerboard just to help it bite so it doesn't slither about. Now if you put down your fingerboard and you don't do that, you can. So now that I've got all my fingerboard prepped, I like to lay everything out, and I have pre-fit the small C-clamps. And well, here we go. 1, 2, spread your glue. And always pull up, letting a corner rest over your glue pot so it drips back into place. Try to put it down in one spot, don't slither it about. Get your 2 corners locked down. That way it goes down nicely and those are held into place. Center it up, and then everything is just filling in. So I've got 4 clamps and cauls over the fingerboard itself, a smaller metal bar clamp, and I like a big clamp on the heel, and make sure everything's tight. Clean up your excess glue, and I'm gonna let this sit, believe it or not, overnight. I'm going to get on to building the bridge because, well, I kind of procrastinated about this. It really should be done earlier. When you're using a jig or making a jig, you try to make it as useful as possible. This one I have made so that way I can create all of these bone blinks, and there we go, finally got the camera to focus on me, as you all should, right? So this is my signature model, which gets the pearl or abalone inlay. So I take one of my bone bridge covers, I route a slot in it. Oop, there's my dad in the background. I'll try to ignore him, I suppose. After I've routed out the center of it off of this, I'll use a square file to, well, make round corners square and get everything nice and even. The trick with this is making sure that your file doesn't go in one direction or the other. You don't flare out the base, you don't take away too much, and generally just make it look good. There's a before and after. There we go. So now I like to glue it onto my bridge blank that I've made up probably about 100 of those because all the time is in the setup. Get that guy locked down onto there, and this takes some fiddling. You want it to be right, you get one shot, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I'm going to use some super glue and get it down. The super glue is really one of the few things that binds really, really well between the bone and the wood. It also has a side benefit, and since it's the ultra thin, it wicks in to where it needs to be, and it holds really, really well, and it's fast. So once that's on, I like to give it a little bit of a breath with some hot air and, well, more for the moistness, which sets it off, and whoops, glued my clamps on a little bit, and that's almost in real time. Now that I've got that, I'm gonna choose some Paola abalone, and this stuff is gorgeous, and it's really hard to make a wrong decision. Well, I mean, look at that, shiny. So I'm just gonna take two that I think look pretty good together, and as you can see, it's loosened there, and I hope I don't glue them down too much. But yep, there's the focus. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? So I think I'm going to kind of keep that orientation. I have to put it in some filler pieces, and I've made up a bunch of this ebony stuff and ebony stock so that way I can create my window pane. Since I've got several different thicknesses that I have used for the Paola abalone, I'd have to do a little bit of fitting. Generally, it's not too much more than a few passes with some sandpaper to get it down to make sure everything fits in there really snug and really tight. This actually takes longer than you would think, but it's one of those details that I think looks really, really good. I just like to make sure that everything fits in there. These are some wedges. Well, not wedges. They're, basically square rectangular pieces that I can make sure fit properly into the whole system. And before you get too far, it's really good to test fit. So I'm going to use my favorite pencil to mark out the length. I'll clip it over length with my clippers. These are old fret clippers that I don't really use for frets anymore because the metal jaws have really taken a beating, so they kind of get knocked down to wood clippers, and I gotta go find my knife and a chopping block. So I like to just kind of cut this to length with a knife. You can use a chisel. My chisel was duller. Anyways, I like to set it into place, make a little mark, and trim exactly to the line. It's pretty quick actually, and it should just drop right in. So now I've got everything laid out. This takes a little bit of forethought. Get your two pieces that you've made for your top and your bottom. Put your end piece in. And I like to use the tip of a pencil with the lead retracted to push it into place. Drop my abalone in, and again, you don't want to use anything hard on this abalone because it can shatter. It's surprisingly fragile, and I'll push that into place. Next up, I'll get the other one in, and this is kind of wedging the two sides into place, and sometimes they need a little bit of encouragement to go in there. And I'll put my other end piece in, give that a little push, make sure everything is snug because you don't want any gaps. Drop that abalone in. Ooh. That is looking beautiful. Now that that's in, I have to fit the centerpiece, and I try to not put them in and out too terribly many times. And this is a little bit oversized, so I'm going to give this a little bit of a taper and make sure everything's really shoved over because you get one shot at this. I'll give that a little bit of a taper. I'll either use a chisel or sometimes a sanding wheel. Put it into place, give it a little tap, make sure it's wedged in. Oops, broke off a bit. I want to make that fit a little bit better, so I'm just giving it a little quick sand on my disc sander. There we go. Goes right in. A little quick tap. That's all in there. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to grab my super glue and get everything locked into place. Once it's in there, it's in there. Now, like I said, this is one of the great glues that you can use for something that doesn't like to glue to each other because it's pretty much a universal bonding agent. And I just kind of flooded the surface. Everything's there. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I still have a lot more to go. I've got a couple sleepless nights left, and then this will be done, just about. I'll still take you on that journey, but thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, etc., 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 Patreon, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you next time. Bye.